a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I am a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Hey everybody, it is March 10th, 2014. It's Not Religious Life. I'm your host, Ken, down here in Los Angeles. Up in the Bay Area, we have Jason.
Hello. How are you?
And out
It's snowing.
somewhere on the East Coast, we have Maddie Brake.
Hey,
Hey.
Where are you right now? Are you home?
well, I am finally home. We were planning on doing this show yesterday, and the irony of it was that I was in San Jose near Jason part of the morning, and then I spent 4 hours in LA, and then I was on a plane ride the whole time. And so yesterday, I have no idea where I was. I was everywhere yesterday. But yes, today I'm back in Vienna, Virginia, which is where I live now. So.
Yeah, you were lost in LAX and texting me. You're like, oh my god, mechanical issues. My plane might actually crash. Like, so, yay me. And then I responded by sending you a picture of a delicious donut I was eating.
Yes, which, I mean, I thought it would be like a really cool thing. Like if somehow it had worked out to where like I either had the flight canceled and we could have done the show yesterday with me in LA, or like to be in LA and like grab lunch and then go back and do the show out here. Like, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I know. Because flying around sucks.
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, I know. I have a fair bit of flying in my near future for work. So looks like I'll probably be in Orlando later this month, and Toronto the month after that, and then I'll be in DC in July. So
You'll be in DC in July?
yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I know. I just found out today, actually.
When in July?
July. I want to say it's July 1st through 4th.
Oh, I won't be there.
Or 4th through something. I'll be there during the 4th. That's all I know.
Oh, I'll be in Minnesota, so have fun.
Oh. Gross. Minnesota. Ugh.
At the Kierkegaard Library.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of cool.
Minneapolis is a cool city.
Minneapolis is a rad city. I actually do like the Twin Cities. Interesting area. I have friends from Duluth, and I have friends from Minneapolis. I actually do like that city, and I like Milwaukee, Wisconsin as well. But generally, I guess it'll be July. It won't be too bad. I did, for people who might remember a few years back, there was a bridge that collapsed there. It's like the I-30 bridge or whatever. I don't know what bridge it was. I forget now, but it was like this bridge that was going over basically a river in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and it was one of the major interstates, and it collapsed into the river, and like a bunch of people died. And honestly, it was like 2 days after I had driven over it, like seriously 5 times. So very, very crazy. And like I was on tour at the time. Most of my friends had no idea where I was because I wasn't necessarily like very communicative. And they were like, "Oh my God, are you okay? I just know you were in Minneapolis." And I was like, "What? What's happening? I'm in Cincinnati now." But that's my story about Minneapolis. Which no one laughed or commented.
No, well, it's kind of, I mean, I was actually going to make a joke about something, afterlife, something. But then, a lot of people died, Ken, so I wasn't going to, make a light of it.
I think it was an interesting story that I seriously drove over that thing like 5 times, like back and forth. It was pretty intense. Oh, and I'll be up in your area, Jason, hopefully before then, but in November,
Oh, really? For what?
I'm going to be running the U.S. half marathon
Oh, no.
across the Golden Gate Bridge and back.
Awesome.
Yeah,
We gotta hang out and go eat food. Well, eat
that's
food.
exactly what I'm going to do. That's the only reason I run.
So you can eat food?
Yeah. Get that
Is everyone-
metabolism going and then just chow down on everything.
Awesome.
Is everyone going to be hanging out without me?
Maybe.
Maybe not Bob.
Unless you could start running now too and run it with me.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening.
I'll see
You were very disappointed about walking around my neighborhood. You were like, God damn, how much further is it? It's like, I don't know. We're like halfway there. You're like,
Yeah, they started a fitness team at my work, and they asked me if I wanted to be on it, and I was like, and it involves running, and I was like, I don't even run from the police. Why would I run for fun?
Yeah.
Everyone on this podcast has been arrested but me. Darn it.
Yeah, well, time to. All the cool kids are doing it.
Oh wait, we are doing a podcast. Maybe we should do that.
All right, well, we can make this relevant. So I guess I could go to North Korea because Kim Jong-un is going to kill some Christians here soon. So I could go there. And call the police.
Yeah. Everyone's been arrested. Not everyone's been killed.
Fair. Fair point.
I don't think that's something you want to one-up anyone on.
So whatever, I've been killed, man.
What, you've been persecuted and arrested? I've been persecuted and martyred.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the only way to make the people with the persecution complex feel like. Well, if you make them feel inferior, wouldn't that just exacerbate their persecution complex?
That's a fair point. So,
But
real quick-
speaking of killing people,
well,
This
I-
show is just.
I do want to. Can we backtrack real quick before? I mean that I'm.
before killing people, okay.
I feel like that's a brilliant segue. I'm kind of sad I interrupted it. But I'm a fan of tradition. Because I'm the religious one of us.
Are you a fan of tradition? Because you still haven't finished that essay.
I am celebrating Lent this year, actually, which is the first time I've ever officially done it. So I chose the worst week to begin it because I gave up alcohol and I was at an academic conference and then I had a 13+ hour flight. So I was like, really? So I'm in the airport by myself, I need wine, and they had these fruit and cheese platters, and I was like, I need wine with this fruit and cheese platter, and that was frustrating. But anyway,
You just shoot the grapes and let them sit in your mouth for a few hours.
yeah. Can I have some rubbing alcohol, please? An APB for our good friend Robert Price.
But he's been found.
He has been found.
He has been found, and he will be making a return shortly, which is good.
He said he would try to make a. He hasn't.
Okay,
Promised yet.
he's attempting to make a return.
Yeah, but I suspect it will happen.
We have to coax him out of the cave in which he's no, it's okay. Get some food and be like, here you go. Come on.
Coax him
trick him out.
He did get engaged during that time that he's been gone.
Yes, but getting engaged does not to get in the way of everything.
I know.
You
Seriously.
usually call all your friends and tell them.
You cannot disappear.
draw.
He's probably
Yeah.
listening to this now. He's like, you bastards.
I know. Two of my friends and colleagues just got married over the weekend, and honestly, the worst thing that happened there as far as withdrawing was that we couldn't play D&D at his house. That was it. No Shadowrun until after the wedding for the last couple weeks.
It's tough.
It is tough. Seriously. Got a street samurai. I need to get going.
All right, so Ken, you wanted to
yes.
kill someone.
I didn't say I wanted to kill someone. I just said about killing people.
Oh, sorry.
There is a church in Kentucky, of all places. Surprise, surprise. Who they're raffling guns to families who attend their Second Amendment celebration.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course, it's a free steak dinner.
Of course.
And you listen to a religious speaker. And then there were raffles to win a variety of 25 donated handguns, long guns, and shotguns. And it...
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Boom!
It's just interesting to me, like how and why.
Didn't they?
I mean, I know. Like, Jesus said, "Do not think I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." Like that's. But I think that was a parable.
Yeah, it probably was, because if you look at it, he's like, I've come to divide. It's the issue of sword as dividing. Like, I've come to divide a father from a son, a sister from a brother, a child from a parent. Like, yeah, that passage is definitely not about physical arms in any way. Although there usually is an argument, and this is all where all just war, all pro-gun people get their... This is what they throw in the face of every pacifist who argues with them. Well, there was that one time right after the Last Supper where Jesus asks, "How many swords do we have?" And they say 2, and he's like, "It's enough." And that becomes like the justification for just war, self-defense Jesus. And also, I think when it says, I think there's another one about go grab a sword. Or something, or I'm not sure if it's just.
I'm actually looking for it right now because I know there's that too, but I can't find it.
Which it just seems weird to me that I love how you can throw in these instances from all of church history, pre-Constantine, from things where Paul seems to be kind of a bit more subdued. You can talk about the political theology of Revelation. You can talk about the Sermon on the Mount. You can talk about all of these things, and they'll bring it back to those 1 and or 2 verses.
And it's Luke 22:36. Then he said unto them, "But now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip, and he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one." So, and then in the very next, or two verses later, he says, "And they said, Look, Lord, here are 2 swords." And he said to them, "It is enough." So,
yeah,
apparently 2 swords are okay.
Yeah, but only 2.
Only 2.
Yeah, but again, that one passage out of the entire New Testament, the entire New Testament, and that's the focus. It's like, well, how can we justify our Christendom? I know.
Yes. The word sword definitely appears way more times in the Old Testament.
Yes, it does.
It appears the word sword, singular, in the entire Old Testament, New Testament, and the Apocrypha. In the RSV, appears 480 times. And most of that, seriously, most of that is like Old Testament. 5 times in Genesis. I'm not even going to count the amount of times in Deuteronomy. Jesus Christ. So, Judges, Samuel.
So in the article you mentioned that I read, I believe it said something like, I forget how many minutes they said it passed before God was finally mentioned. It was like 19 minutes in or something, but like the word gun had been used multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the best part. It was like this religious address, but they don't mention anything about like God until it's like Siri, you're into it, like, and maybe this is just a Southern thing to me. Like, I don't know. I went to church when I was younger, and I'm pretty sure I remember God being the focus and not guns. But this is the whole this sort of like conservative, like American political stance that combines itself with Christianity confuses me, because, you know, like, I'm pretty sure Jesus's political affiliations would have been probably a lot less like modern day Republicans. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, if Jesus were a person who lived right now, he, based on some of the things that I'm doing wrong, I think he might be very conservative religiously, but some of the political stances that get conflated with it, with like guns and, I don't know, like the Protestant work ethic and capitalism.
I think the Protestant work ethic, in terms of, I might have to defend that one.
If you say the Protestant work ethic is anything but an outdated 18th century justification for the division of labor, I'm gonna fly to DC and punch you.
Well, thanks, Weber. Anyway, no, I think there was, I think there are pietistic reasons to hold to something akin to the Protestant work ethic. Now, in terms of like, you either invest or you save, and I mean, there's a lot in the Protestant work ethic, but in terms of like doing your work as hard as you can, as devotedly as you can, because you don't make it just about the job you're holding, but also you see your work as sacred and to God himself, and therefore it should be done with the utmost diligence. That I can go into. I mean, I wouldn't see, working hard, because in the end, you should see yourself doing it for God and not just for people. Like, I don't see. I think that's the mentality that the Puritans had. That at least that was their. Now, however, that gets twisted. Which, as always, all these things get twisted at some point or another. But I think there's some biblical piety that justifies something akin to the Protestant work ethic. Ken?
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying. I think the
plane now to drop it, or
no, I think I get what you're saying, but the Protestant work ethic in its application in society says that it's only people who work hard who are rewarded, and conversely, it's only people who move forward are the ones who are actually hard workers. It's the idea that, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's an incredibly backward mentality, because it ignores the fact that social mobility has nothing to do with how hard you work. People in the lower class are typically the hardest workers.
That's not an unfair. That's not an unfair point. And actually, with the Puritans, I mean, you're talking about a very Calvinist group as it was, so they're pretty exclusivist and kind of whatever. I mean, for them too, the Protestant work ethic also entailed that the more prosperous you were, it was a sign of God's blessing and election, which ironically, like, I get. I think this kind of goes to a scriptural dialectic, because, on the other hand, you have this like blessed are the poor thing happening, like in the words of Jesus. So, I mean, I think that may be, prosperity isn't always a sign of God's favor or election in the text. So I think that's another fair point. And I think just the basic, historical, social evidence that you cite as well, that would say that, because I knew people who were working 3 jobs in Norfolk and couldn't, had a couple kids and couldn't, and going to college and could barely survive. So yeah, no, that's a fair point.
I think it's funny you brought up the Puritans here, because I actually just saw an article, and I'm trying to find it now, but I can't. But it was actually about the concept of Puritans and the fact that everyone says the Puritans left England seeking religious freedom, but actually they weren't, because they had that in England and they did not like it one bit. Meaning that, if you look at the history of Massachusetts, like I grew up in Massachusetts, and I don't know how much sort of New England, like Puritan history they teach outside of New England, but we were always taught that the Puritans came seeking religious freedom and the New World, and that's what they wanted. They were being persecuted in England. And they weren't. It was actually had more to do with the fact that they had just failed to overthrow the king than anything else. But they fled to what they were hoping was going to be Virginia, and wasn't, and then ended up setting up this like little mini theocracy,
which kind of brings us back to that Baptist church and the gun giveaway, America, Second Amendment blending of Christianity and Americanism thing.
Mm-hmm.
Full circle.
I guess it is full circle, because until 1996, it was legal on the books to shoot a Rhode Islander if you caught them crossing the border into Massachusetts. It's old blue law.
I've never liked those Rhode Islanders. No, I actually really like.
Well, you know why Rhode Island was started, right?
Yeah. The guy. Oh gosh, what was his name?
Roger William.
Roger William. Yeah, I liked him because he actually bought the land from the Native Americans and was
started the Plymouth. He started Providence Plantation.
Yep, and he was against, I think, forced, coercive faith, and I like Roger Williams.
Yeah, it's funny because I read about it now and I'm like, hey, this guy actually wasn't that bad, and he was just like, what was he? What was his denomination? I forget.
Is he a Baptist?
Let's see, it was a Quaker, but
that was George Fox in Pennsylvania was a Quaker. I don't think
Roger Williams was
Baptist. Come on.
Hold on, I'm coming. I'm finding it. He was Puritan Separatist Reformed Baptist.
I was right, I guess.
Yeah. Reformed Baptist. Yeah. Started the first Baptist church in America. Wow. Interesting. Okay, sorry to start doing weird research and reading pages online while doing the show, but that's interesting. But anyway, yeah, he started this whole thing. I mean, he was very against coercive faith, and he thought people should be allowed to worship as they saw fit. So, I mean, so long as it was Christianity.
Yeah.
And the Puritans did not like that one bit, so they kind of banished him out. And he started his own land. I believe he actually tried to come back a couple times. It didn't work. But he went and lived with the Narragansett Indians, and then he started Providence.
Jason, were you going to say something earlier?
No, the point was kind of made, so I didn't need to.
Okay,
no.
Just cool.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting. Okay, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna bring it back to our gun-toting Kentuckians.
Kentucky, man, I don't.
I mean, you know how I feel about the whole Christianity, Christian nationalism thing. You know how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I mean you're very against it. You feel Christianity should be apolitical. I agree.
Although here is an issue I'm starting to deal with now. That I went to there's a community in Alexandria near DC that's involved in a largely Salvadorian. I think it's mainly Salvadorians, and they've been there for a couple years. And one of the things our church is starting to do now is trying to focus on doing some type of social justice thing. Now that we've grown to a point where we're giving to our community but figuring out how to do it. So we went to this training, and they talked about, the different types of, there's relief, which is like give them the relief now that they need, empowerment, betterment, and then it got to the issue of systemic injustice. And so even with all of my anti-Christendom stuff, I recognize the need for systemic change to help people who the system is against, or who is just tilted out of their favor. So one of the things I'm wrestling with is how to act for systemic change without re-embracing kind of some form of utopianism or Christendom mentality.
I think it's just called not being a dick. I don't know. I mean, I think at that point maybe you just separate it from your statement of faith and just do it because it's the right thing to do. What would Kierkegaard say?
Kierkegaard was actually pretty anti-revolutionary, and some have called him an some have said he's anti-democratic. I think his purpose was more broad because he just thought people tend to hide in revolutionary crowds without thinking about what they themselves are responsible for. So that's kind of up in the air. So who knows? There really isn't much in the way of social justice in Kierkegaard.
Maybe that's why Kierkegaard is my least favorite of the existentialists.
I can see that. No, in terms of separating it from, I mean, I get that, but as people of faith, my identity is kind of integrated.
Compartmentalize, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to keep me from, it's not going to keep me from doing it one way or the other.
Yeah, good. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any good until. No,
You know what? I shouldn't even laugh because honestly, there are plenty of people who feel that way.
Which way?
I'm not going to do any good until, because fuck it, it's all going down the drain anyway. Jesus come back any day. Usher in the new Jerusalem. Shit's going to be tight, and then I can start doing awesome things because that's what we want to keep going.
Honestly, those are also the same type of Christians who, ironically, do fight for things in the public sphere when they want them, like gun ownership or something.
Yeah.
Let it all go down the drain. But...
well, maybe you know what? I mean, guns will usher it in.
Yes. Well, yes. Yes.
Yes.
I think. I mean, the problem becomes too if I try to give a rallying cry to other Christians as well. They're
going to hear it as a Christian.
Yes, and they're going to hear it as I'm going to say it as a Christian, but they're going to hear it in a way where if they haven't gone through the whole really trying to separate their or try to think through the implications of a mindset that invokes Christendom. If they haven't thought that, then, they're going to focus on, societal betterment, but eventually that's going to could potentially take a really perverse turn, like with the Christians who, are trying to, who really want to legislate against gay marriage because they want a Christian nation that upholds their own values. And And that, yeah, I want them to fight for I want them to fight against systemic injustice, but not also take up some call to keep two consensual adults from doing what they want in a democratic society.
Yeah. You're at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Which involves the power of the sword. And it's just, you know how I feel about that. And I'm
back to the sword.
So.
It's yeah.
I think.
I mean, go.
I think one of the problems that we all have, not just Christians in this element, but one of the problems is that we don't understand when we get caught up in the circles with Christian thought and stuff. Even in the activist world, we get caught up in our own bubble, and we don't understand our thought process, how it truly affects others. We don't understand the root causes of oppression, and we don't understand the root causes of what makes things unethical, or the causes of injustice. And as long as we become or reactionary to these things, to the oppression and the injustice, we're never going to find true change. We're never going to be able to address the true root causes of the problems that we're trying to battle against. And we are all, Christians and non-Christians alike, are doing a disservice by trying to just hack at the branches instead of attacking the root cause of whatever it is. I mean, because time and time again, since we were talking on the Christian aspect of having trouble with it, if we look at people trying to legislate against gay marriage or the homosexual lifestyle, whatever you want to define it, time and time again, when you actually sit down and look eye to eye and relate to that person on a personal level, then change is made. That person usually wakes up and sees the error of their ways, to see the error of that oppression and why it's bad. But as a society, as little pockets of groups, we're not doing that. So we're not getting to the systemic change. We're not getting to the root cause. And I think that's a fundamental problem with all of us. And I think that should be addressed in all groups.
The issue with that, I mean, if you want to get down to the root of oppression and social injustices, and is education in the first thing. It's something that astounds me every single day when I go on Facebook and look around at some of these people that I grew up with, like family members and friends of family, loved ones, and Massachusetts is a surprisingly conservative place for such a staunch, not that I think Democrats are in any way liberal or progressive at all.
Scott Brown got elected.
Jesus Christ, yeah, don't even talk to me about that. I mean, the guy had a truck. That was his platform. And thankfully he only lasted one term before being replaced. But you have people who actively pursue causes that are contrary to their own interest. you have poorer people fighting against healthcare reform, fighting against better education, fighting against cheaper access to medication, fighting actively against a higher minimum wage, and it makes me stop and think, why would you if there are programs that would, if not help you, just if it wouldn't help you up, at least it would stop the person from kicking you in the teeth. Why would you continue supporting that?
Well, because we continue to create a culture where logic and facts no longer have an element of reason.
Yeah,
compassion.
and I do have one
I'm sorry.
in particular, a friend of the family who, and we talk a lot about stuff, and I mean, a lot of what we're talking about is me sharing links to Snopes articles and PolitiFact, and be like, no, what you're saying is simply not true. It's it's not even like oh, there's two opinions about it. What you're saying is demonstrably false. and it doesn't sink in. It's just they'll agree with you for a second, they'll nod their head, and then they'll go right back into it. And I'm like, wait, what? And this mentality ties into this social conservatism, which is, I mean, I'm sorry, Matt, has hijacked your religion in America for the better part of it. And it's almost, it's like a train wreck. You want to look away, but you can't.
Two things. Well, first, Jason, did you were going to say something, weren't you?
No, I'm good.
Two things. I want to address what you just said, while going back and pointing out, the two different solutions you both offered, because it's almost like micro and macrocosmic. Like Jason's solution to the issue of injustice, I know this isn't, I'm oversimplifying, was, sitting down with the other person, I'm guessing, seeing their shared humanity, and that's why you realize you've, oppressed this person or harmed this person. And then Ken's, yours was the issue of education. And I agree with both, and that's why I'm not sure if it's just simply a matter of, when I was talking about the issue of how we, wrestle with systemic injustice without embracing without taking a harmful ideological turn. That's why I'm not just sure the answer can ever just be just do the right thing, because there is the issue of it's not just doing the right thing, but it's the that comes out of an intuition built from seeing people in harm and undoing harmful attitudes and mindsets, and educating people, arguing against people, presenting a different way of thinking, and like you said, educating people. I don't think it's just a matter of I always think knowing why you're doing something is important so that you can answer well and educate others in the process, which I know wasn't what you were trying to say by just doing the right thing, but I think thinking through the issue of why and how is important for doing the right thing, because unintended consequences can be pretty rough.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And two things that I have that will make this better. One, I just put a Fox News lower third onto my video feed, so now everybody will listen to me and think it's truth. So it's problem solved.
Maybe that's just what we need to do. Just put the Fox News lower third down there and just go from there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's got to be true. If there's a little ticker at the bottom, that's just fact.
Yeah.
Me and Ken aren't liable if they sue, right?
Yeah, no, it's all on
Good.
me. It's all on me. But the second thing is I totally agree with you. It is more than being able to just sit down across from each other. It is more than that. And it goes back to the education, because we've been brought up for as long as I can remember that we are taught that the person on food stamps, the lower class, the lower income families, the people who are not middle class and up are lesser beings. They're not fit. How many times have we heard conversations and heard people say, when they're in line paying with food stamps, they're like, look at those people. Oh my God. We've demoralized people because of things that are out of their control. And it's took roots and grown, and we've created this culture where if you ask for help, if you're having hard times, if you're down on your luck, whatever, however you define that, there's something wrong with you. There's something physically or mentally wrong with you, and you're not contributing to society, and that is a problem. And going back to looking at why we do things and understanding why we do things is something that I also take at heart. And in fact, where I work, we have symposiums where we don't argue the problems of the world, and we don't take a stance on the problems of the world. We kind of bring people through this. We like to call it a transformational process, but we identify the problems in the world, but then also look at the root causes of that. And it's important because when they walk away from that, they may not have all the answers or have any answers at all, but they have a better understanding of their position in the world around them and why they believe the way they do. And that's not happening on a larger scale. We've embraced this bully culture, and not to use a buzz term, but we have, where if I have more than you, then I'm better. We've gone.
No, it's exactly that. It's a materialistic bully culture that of haves and have-nots, and somehow we've tricked as a society a lot of have-nots into thinking that they're not have-nots. They're just haves who have yet to become haves. And so long as they have the right have mentality, they will become haves. And
it's a failed concept. It is a terrible, horrible concept.
Yeah, and utterly unfounded. Like it's a nonsense concept. But we celebrate the few people who are have-nots who became haves, and it's just like, oh look, no, they just worked hard, and really it's like, no, they're brilliant people who are game changers, and not everyone is a brilliant person who's a game changer. Not everyone is Bill Gates and can drop out of MIT in their junior year and then become the second richest man in the world.
I think I'm going back to what you said about the people who fight against the things that would help them. That sounds an awful lot like Ariana Huffington's, one of her books that she recently wrote. I think one of the issues of, which isn't, I'm not saying one thing, I'm making a joke like, hey, you plagiarized, which I know you didn't, but I think the issue too, though, that a lot of the especially like you talk, the poor conservatives, the poor, not like poor, like, oh, I'm sorry for you, but like, no, like economically poor. They've been trained to have a really, to be really suspicious of the idea of benevolent governance. And I can't say it's necessarily. I think it's irrational, the extent they take it, but not entirely unjustified. Corporations. Huge corporations that can influence things with money aren't necessarily much better. And I guess it's more of a matter of like pick your poison. But there is some reason to be suspicious of the idea of benevolent governance, in that it can eventually, it can and does get twisted at some point, which I'm not justifying.
But the irony there is that rather than going for benevolent governance, they just accept the hostile, malevolent governance. Like, rather than go for benevolent governance they might lose, they would rather, it's like, yeah, that person might stab me in the back, but I know for a fact this guy's going to kick me in the nuts. It's like, so which do you choose?
Oh, that's great. I know these people. I was raised among these people. For them, the issue is this guy might stab me in the back, but I have...
I have a gun, so I'll shoot him.
Exactly. I don't have to turn the other cheek, because I'll shoot off his cheek before he slaps mine. Yeah. and that goes to sort of this individualistic, like government is to ensure that individuals are able to do whatever they want with whatever they have, and that's it.
Mhm.
So a very minimalistic view of government that,
Yeah.
you might not make it, but at least you could do whatever you wanted with the little you have and potentially get better. And it's sold very optimistically to, like you said, like these people who are have-nots, a lot of them will never get better.
Yeah. No, that's
the
just
systems-
not how social mobility works. However, talking about benevolent governance in Jason's household might change to malevolent governance if we do not wrap up the show.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's funny because she just gave me a timestamp. She's like 4 minutes.
I figured that was happening. I just looked at the clock. So anyone who's out there in listening land and would like to leave any comments or concerns or outbursts, or you want to yell at us, you can totally do that. You can find us on Facebook, on Google+. You can visit the Zombie Popcorn website. You can email us nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com.
And we are now live.
And you can even call us if you have a phone and you want to talk to someone. Jason's very lonely and loves to chat. All he needs to know is ASL. But you can reach him at 757-337-2195. And with that said, we will see you again soon.
Yay!
Hey.